Good morning. Welcome to the Therapeutic Conversation Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Jones, LPC, in the house today. Hopefully all is well with you all today. Glad you all are joining us. So we have a special guest today that we're going to have on the show, Reverend Andre Leopard. So I'm so excited that Reverend Andre is going to be joining us today. Hey, Reverend Andre.
Hey.
Yes. You're on. I see you. So you're here. So I'm so excited that you're here today to be live and everything. And sometimes everybody know with technology, it's always something going on. So we're going to go with the flow. All is going to be well. But the main thing is that you all are getting the information that you all need. Now, you can also call in, too, in a few minutes at 770-988-6461. You can also send a comment on Facebook, 108 Praise Radio, and also my Facebook page, Brian Jones, LPC. We're right here, and we're going to be answering questions and talking and sharing and everything like that. Now, I want to begin. We always begin, Reverend Andre, with a therapeutic moment. And today I'm not going to read a scripture. I'm just going to kind of have a little comment, a therapeutic comment, because it's so much going on with, I adore her gift and who she is. Her name is Reverend Leandra Johnson, the singer, the gospel singer, has recently got on, social media and said some things about church hurt. And I just think that those things are very vital to what is going on and even our conversation. So today we're going to be talking about a sensitive subject, very sensitive subject, dealing with HIV and AIDS. And that's something, especially in the African-American church and community, we really don't talk about. Now, on this show, I know y'all going to be saying comments and calling in. We don't want any judgment. And I'm not going to allow any judgment. The question that I'm asking is, what is the therapeutic response to the church, the African-American church, and also the African-American community to AIDS and HIV? So Reverend Andre is going to be sharing. He's going to be talking and all of those type of things. And I'm also saying that the views that are expressed on this particular show is not necessarily the views of 108 Praise Radio. And so, we're not going to receive based upon this subject. And so we're just going to listen to people's stories because, someone said that we're more alike than we're disalike. We're more connected and we're more similar than we are different. And so we got to realize that everybody has a story, everybody has a perspective, everybody has, something that, that we all look into and look at, and we need to be aware of those particular things. So definitely call in today, 770-988-6461, and we're going to definitely. So I want to begin talking about this church hurt first. I mean, that people are coming forth. I mean, even she was the spark, I would say, people. Spirit, there's only certain things that can be done by spirit and by God. And we just thank you that you're doing whatever you need to do, and that your word is just good. It's encouraging. It's healing. And, and we just thank you for this subject and for, this 108 Praise Radio, that we're able to just talk about subjects like this that are very uncomfortable for people, God. But help us even in the uncomfortableness to see you and see love and see peace and see blessing, even in the midst of turmoil and trauma. We thank you for everything you're doing and everything you're about to do. In your name we give thanks. Amen. All right. So, Reverend Andre, I want to introduce you a little bit, and I'm so glad that you are a part of us, And I say us because Reverend Andre and I go way, 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 way back. Yep, and I don't even want to say how many years, because that's going to tell a whole lot about who we are and everything like that. Right. But anyway, the point that I'm making is, and I'm just getting my phone together so I could see the comments and everything on there. Hold on one second here. And this is live, so y'all got to give me a second. All right, I see the people on there, right there. I see my stepfather and mom is on. Hello. I see y'all there. Hey, Mom. Hey, stepfather William. So they're on. They send hello on there. All right. So as we kind of
say hello.
Yes.
Send my blessings.
Yes. So Reverend Andre, I want to begin. I got to tell the people, because even as I've been doing this show, I have to tell the people, that we've known each other for a long time. Many years.
Over 20 years.
I know, over 20 years. All right, now, you don't be putting numbers out like that. You got to be careful with the numbers. But anyway, over 20-some years that we've known each other, first from Virginia Union, and I want to say this about Reverend Andre before I give him, his academic accolades. But I want to say this: Reverend Andre is one of the catalysts, the reason why Dr. Brian Jones went to seminary. Because this is what happened. I'm going to tell the people. I know that we're going to talk about your story because it's not all about me, but I got to share this. That I had prayed that I didn't really want to go to seminary, to be honest. I really didn't. I didn't think it was a purpose, and I'm being very honest. I was like, I'm already had to struggle to be a minister, and I really don't want to go to seminary. But what God did was God used Reverend Andre to get me to register in seminary. I supposed to, it was registration day, and I said, God, if you want me to go, have somebody there to drive me. I did one of those prayers.
By the way, I wasn't aware of this prayer, y'all. I wasn't aware that he had this prayer.
You wasn't aware, and I was like, drive me to seminary. Drive me to register. And anyway, Reverend Andre showed up right at my house and drove me, because we had said that we were going to register. He was going to help me through the process and everything. And so I'm so grateful for his friendship, his love, his spirit. And then Andre pastored in Middlesex County, where I grew up in Virginia for some years. And he invited me definitely to be a part of his ministry as far as preaching there. And so I preached for him numerous times, back in the day, and then also part of his ordination council and everything like that. And it just was a wonderful experience just to be. And I've always just been, he's a colleague of mine, but I've always admired his spirit, his dedication, and his love for people. And people across all lines and all races and all walks of life. And that's what I want to say. But he is definitely a graduate of my alma mater, the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union, STVU, and also an undergrad there at Virginia Union. And he also has a master's in education. And he is a community activist. He is a community person. He's currently, he's going to talk a little bit about his work, but and share his story. So I'm so honored to welcome to the Therapeutic Conversation Show, Reverend Andre Leopard, a friend of mine, colleague of mine, that I really admire. So welcome.
I tell you, this is my first time on radio, but you make it so comfortable, my brother.
Well, we got to do what we got to do, here.
Yes,
and I've heard that before. So I love you too, and I'm just so glad that you're a part. Now, I was looking at some of the statistics, Reverend Andre, and and it's basically for African Americans, and I'm going to focus today on African American HIV and AIDS, a very sensitive topic, a taboo. So our topic is really how to come against the stigma of AIDS and HIV. As soon as someone says that word, it does something to us in our communities. It challenges us, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. But look at the numbers here. In 2016, 17,528 African Americans received an HIV diagnosis in the United States, and that was in 2016. The statistics, and this is from the CDC website. You can look at it, and as much as you want to, but 47% of those that received an AIDS diagnosis in the United States were African American, and those numbers are probably much higher now, 2 years later. I mean, they're still doing the numbers, but this is something that we have to start having conversations with. We have to start talking about. And so, Andre, Reverend Andre, please take over.
Yeah.
Talk about whatever you want to talk about and however you want to start, and I'm going to chime in and we're going to go from there. But I just want everybody to know this is the Therapeutic Conversation Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Jones, and we're joined today with Reverend Andre Leopard. We're talking about AIDS and HIV in our community and what is the therapeutic response of the church and also the African American community. And you can definitely call in at 770-988-6461, or you can send us a message on Facebook. Dr. Francis, thank you for joining us. And he's saying, tell my mother and father hello or good morning. You know, they love you. So I know they're hearing that from me, and they appreciate that. But Reverend Andre, go ahead. Let's go ahead and chime right on in, and let's talk about this hot topic.
Yes, it is a hot topic, and that is telling to the fact that it is a hot topic. You know, it is a medical illness. It affects everyone. It goes across age. It goes across orientation. It goes across generations, race, and everything. AIDS, HIV, and AIDS is a global situation. It's a global epidemic. And so at some point, I would like to get to a point where it's not as stigmatized, just like if someone has, Brother Jones, rheumatoid arthritis, or if someone has any of these other illnesses, it's not a stigma. And sometimes the stigma is how you got it. So you must have did something wrong, or you must have engaged in sin. Basically, you did something that everybody does. Some people. I mean, you know, there are other ways to get it besides sex, but many is through sex. And that is, you know, it's even hard to talk about sex itself in the church. So talking about sex and HIV and STDs or STIs is a very difficult conversation. It is a badge of somewhat of a badge of shame. And so that causes the person who has it or who you know, who's contracted it to go into an igloo and not share, not reach out for the support and the help mechanisms. And there's things that we can do in our community. There are things that we can do in the church to try to provide a safe space of support. You know, it is not just providing a ministry that's HIV and AIDS. Or sometimes, you know, they have some churches that have that, and people don't want to be involved with it because it's a stigmatized thing. Mm-hmm. So the confidentiality around it, and also the embrace of the people in the church is not just what did you do to get it. Maybe the question ought to be what happened and how can we help.
Yes, exactly,
you know,
exactly.
Those types of things. What did you do to get it? Causes you to turn away. Or once you do have it, you know, let's bring you to the prayer line because we're going to cast that demon out of you. See, and really you're not, and then we use creative church things. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to that spirit inside of you. I know you heard of that, Dr. Jones.
You know, I know about that.
but you know, we need to embrace this as a family issue. Family, not just in terms of blood and genetics, but family as a community family, as a church family. And how do we tackle this issue? And creating a safe space is a start. Yes. When people feel safe, then they can go ahead and seek out treatment because the treatment is supported by their family. Human beings, it's unnatural for us to live as islands. We are connected in a community. And when we feel isolated, it not only affects us personally, but affects everything about us. Mental health affects us socially, psychologically, in every other way. Yes. So, you know, first we need to combat the stigma. We need to create safe spaces in a church setting.
Okay, hold on now. Now pause right there, Reverend Andre, because we just want to make sure everybody's clear, and we don't want to move so fast. So we want to definitely talk about it. So the first thing that you're recommending is that people create safe places, is what you're saying. And then also you talked a little bit about the isolation. And there's a slogan going around, which I think is powerful, that people do not have to suffer in silence.
Right.
And so that's what you're saying is that, I mean, that's what I hear you saying is that, that first thing, AIDS and HIV is global. I heard that part. It goes across lines, age, ethnic cultures, sexual orientation. All of that is broad. I mean, you can't just single it out into one person, and then it doesn't look just one, affects one individual. I mean, we don't know, who could be affected by this particular, disease by looking at people. And so I think that we got to really push that. But what I'm hearing is I'm hearing a blaming the victim. You know what I'm saying? If someone is affected, I'm hearing this blame type thing that they're, that they did something necessarily dirty or something wrong.
Or this is God's judgment on you.
Yes.
And then that causes you to turn away from the church because no one wants to go to the church and feel like they're being judged, number one. And no one wants to go to church and experience, and me and Dr. Taylor, Sophia Taylor, my good friend, experience shame. And there's a difference between experience shame and guilt. Guilt is said I did something wrong. There's a behavioral issue. It's something I did, I'll regret. Shame is I just don't like me. I don't like me in this.
Yes.
It is not the behavior. It is the definition. It is the meanness. It is me.
Yes.
And when you cause people to dislike and to try to disown themselves, then you have pushed them away. And the real sin is the church.
Wow.
When we do that.
Wow.
And the real sin is the church, because nowhere in Christ's ministry did he turn anybody away. As a matter of fact, society has turned many away. The man Jerushes, who had the legion of demons, society put him, on an island, so to speak.
Wow.
And, Jesus didn't come to the people first. He came to the island where, in that isolated situation, in his own igloo, that's where ministry started. And there are many other examples, and I don't want to just make this a Bible study, but
no, you're preaching now. You can go ahead and preach. You're a preacher. See, he a preacher, y'all.
The woman with the issue of blood who was pushed close to the ground, and she was marginalized and stepped on. And I'm sure that Jesus' tassel wasn't the only one that she grabbed.
Yeah.
She was probably grabbing. She reached out, and Jesus then turned around and acknowledged her, who touched me.
Yes.
And, so just the acknowledgement of existence, just the acknowledgement of personhood, and regardless of how it happened, what happened, just like the church needs to be the emergency responders. When you go to an emergency situation, if the ambulance comes or whatever, you don't ask, how did you get this heart attack? Did you choke on a chicken bone? You should have had all that chicken.
Yeah.
How did you get this lung cancer? Did you smoke? Do you smoke way too much? I mean, this is just a natural. It doesn't matter right now. It's health.
Yes.
That would be a time to evaluate and review all of that in a loving context and in a loving way.
Yeah.
But the church is very guilty of being a product of the world in the name of churchianity. We are just like the world, but we use church language.
Yes.
The world puts people out, and the world demonizes if something has happened to you or something, and so does the church. There's no difference.
Yes. And you're right. And that's what
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And that's what we address on this show, Reverend Andre. We definitely talk about, and dealing with those, how people are hurting, how people are struggling, how people are, dealing with things, and, and how we get hurt in the church, as you're talking about, and ostracize and judge, because I'm hearing that judgment, when it's not our place to judge. It's not our place to be in places where we are oppressing people and treating people, victimizing, causing more victimization in the church. And that's what you're addressing. Dr. Francis says, thank you. He talks about the stigma of HIV has created a barrier in our churches. And he said the way that to help people from the church, from a church perspective, would be to open the doors to the system that exists in the community. Leopards were cleansed as well. So I mean,
Right.
so I think that we got to really, I think Dr. Francis is definitely on that the church has to continue to be a safe haven. So that's where our conversation is kind of going now. Now, Reverend Andre, are you kind of open to share your story, because you have a powerful testimony, and I don't know whether you. And I'm gonna say this too to you all too.
I was definitely not shying away from it. I definitely wanted to share. I just wanted to allow you to, build a foundation for the discussion.
Yeah, but hold on, Reverend Andre. I want to say this. Hold on, Reverend Andre. I do want to say this, though. I do want to say that you have not been talking to a lot of people about your testimony, especially on an airway, in this, a national airway. So I'm just honored that you're here and that you're, open to share as much as you feel comfortable sharing. But I do think that, the Bible does talk about, we overcome by the word of our testimony. And you do have a powerful testimony. I've only heard parts of it, but just a powerful testimony that God is in my opinion, from what I heard you talk about, through our conversations, God is still in the midst of everything that we go through. And I just want people to really know that you do not have to be ashamed. You do not have to be feeling like, like no one cares, because God does care. But God also will send people around you that will help you to care. And we do have a question real quick before you share your story from Pastor Bobby Graham. He's asking, hey, Bobby, Reverend Bobby, Pastor Bobby, what are the steps of that he's asking, what are the steps our churches need to be prepared to be a safe haven? How can our churches be a safe haven? What steps? And we're going to definitely address that in a few minutes, Pastor Bobby. Pastor Bobby Graham. We're going to address that. But go ahead and share your story, Andre, while we have time. I definitely want to take time and whatever you want to share. And I just want people to be open, because it's a powerful testimony.
Okay. I will have to be honest with you. This is my first time sharing, but I consider myself a bold person and bold in faith, and I do want to let you know, with your listeners, all of those who I know, who I don't know, I love you all, and whether you agree or disagree, this is my story, this is my testimony, this is where I am at this point. To all of my people in Middlesex, I love you much. And Tidewater area 757, and also in Atlanta and wherever this reaches out to. But anyway, so let's get to it. I was in a relationship. It was a same gender relationship for 1 year. I've been asked many times about, what is my sexuality? I don't really classify. During this same gender relationship, I can only speak to the facts at this time. I was advised by my attorney, because there is some other possible stuff, because I can only speak to the facts.
Yes.
And not into speculation, and I can give you how it affected me. So, anyway, the facts were, we were in a relationship for a year. And during the process of this year, we shared many things. I was doing well financially. I was in the process of, working on creating a therapeutic mentor program, and putting together some foundations to create my own agency. I was close to making really six figures, and trying to get back in school, Dr. Jones.
There you go.
During the relationship, something happened. We had many disagreements, many problems, and this problem became a legal situation. And there was a lot of in between, but I'm giving you the facts. A year later, we broke up, and then 6 months after that, I was accused of felony sexual battery, sexual battery with the intent to infect. I'm an HIV positive male. During this time, prior to, at the point of accusation, this is the key, not, the thing has been litigated at the point of accusation. And a lot of this comes from, we had Facebook conversations. The media has edited a lot. These Facebook conversations happened over months. and they found a few things, and I believe took it completely out of context of what the conversation was about. But that was enough to have reasonable cause to say that I intentionally infected, I can't say the person's name, this person with HIV. So during that time, I was, it went on the news in 3 states. Later on, I found out I was, when I was able to look at the internet, there was a lot of death threats and a lot of hostile emails. But long story short, I didn't meet bond. I went to jail. I didn't make my first bond hearing. They were denied bond. The attorney at the time felt that the restrictions on the bond was too extremely rigid and impossible to meet, and I kind of agree with her. Family pulled together. We got a different counsel, Andrew Sachs, one of the best attorneys in 757, maybe in Virginia. He talked with the prosecution attorney about what the bond hearing should be. I mean, what the stipulations of the bond. And let me tell you, the bond was so rigid. It felt like if I breathed, I could go back to jail.
Wow.
The stipulations of the bond, and here's what I want to stress. It was at the point of accusation. That's why a lot of this was stigmatization. Because at the second bond hearing, there was a person before me who was accused of molesting a child. And I guess they had some of the same type sex offense cases, perhaps, who was accused of molesting a child. He was out on his own recognizance.
Wow.
Never made the news or anything. I was accused at that point, I needed to maintain full-time employment. I had to be on ankle monitoring, as well as I had a private ankle monitor, because Andrew Sachs did not trust the justice system to be fair, a shake, he felt like if I had tripped the wire or something, it could make problems. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
So I had a private company, and also I had pretrial. Now, pretrial is like right before trial, you report basically to a probation officer every week to just so they can keep tabs on you. So I have pretrial, probation, and on top of that, I have an ankle monitor. It seems like one should have canceled out the other. On top of this, I'm on house arrest, but I have to keep employment.
Yeah.
I was able to get employment in terms of working on writing a grant. That turned out to be difficult because, the natural grant process, okay? But I could not use the internet. Now, you need research to write a grant. I can't go to the library, so I feel like the defense, the prosecution would set me up for just to put me back in jail. I just would have felt like it was a $50,000 bond.
Yes.
So at that point, the only place I could go was to EVMS for my medical appointments and medical treatment, to my lawyer, and go home.
Wow.
I worked with maneuvering between the ankle monitor and pretrial. Sometimes I had to inform the ankle monitor many hours in advance that I had to go to pretrial. So basically, I can report to this. It's pretty much the same thing.
Wow.
Some appointments were late because I had to get his approval. The ankle monitor cost every month. I had to figure out a way to pay. I was able to turn in some of my notes for my job and able to get some of that money to pay the ankle monitor. But every month I was afraid I was going to be reincarcerated. The word spread through the community so fast because of, I don't say because of who I am, but I'm known. I've worked with FAP team, Family Assessment Planning. I've worked with Hampton City Schools, Newport News City Schools, Virginia Beach Public Schools. I've worked with the community service boards. So it just spread all the way out. In shock, I did have a lot of people who were supportive, but it was a very hostile situation to the point where when I went to get gas, just so I can make my appointments. There were hostile stares. There were comments that I won't say over your radio waves, but I was in trauma.
Wow.
My life had fallen in a process of 3 minutes. And then on Facebook, my story went global.
Yes.
And processing all this, and mind you, I don't have any criminal record. I think the last time I had gotten in trouble, I was suspended in middle school for one day.
Yeah.
So I've never been, I'm used to going to court and Stacey Adams and advocating. Just a week prior, I was advocating for a client. I mean, I had to write a letter to the judge.
Yeah.
And so I'm used to going to court in a different type of setting. I've never had anxiety about court until pretty much 2016.
Yeah.
So anyway, on June, about almost this time last year, my preliminary hearing, which is pretty much the presentation of the facts, is not an actual trial. It's just enough to say, are we going to go to trial or are we not?
Yes.
The preliminary hearing was set for September, and my attorney, Andrew Sachs, said the community is just too hostile.
Wow.
We need to go ahead and set it for all the way in December. So this is the stigma. The community said it was just. Now, my question is, why is the community having this much impact on a court case? It does.
Wow. So hold on.
Like I said,
Reverend Andre, I just want to pause right there because, I mean, you're saying a whole lot and I know people are listening. And so this is still based upon, accusations. You know what I'm saying? This is what you had to go through because there was a, pending case. You were arrested, as you said, and this was based upon accusations that you had to be monitored because you did not, qualify according to their interpretation of getting full bond and all that stuff. So you had to be monitored and spend a lot of money to, to be able to do that on accusations because, and I just want to say this too, it ended up on Facebook. I saw it on Facebook. That's how I found out. I saw it on Facebook on the news, and they also put out your medical information right on the news.
There you go. Yes, it did. And that was further stigmatization. So you have a same-gender relationship, you have HIV, you have, the word pastor. I never said I did pastor, of course, in Middlesex, but at the time I wasn't pastoring, I was in ministry.
And then you're an African-American male as well. And then you're an African-American male as well.
So
in
so
Virginia.
I couldn't be any more marginalized.
In Virginia.
In Virginia.
In the Commonwealth state. Hold on. I got to get this out. In the Commonwealth state of Virginia. Wow.
Yeah. And so, in my background and everything, it mattered not. It mattered not. Education, it mattered not.
Wow.
At this point, you're not even a suspect, you're guilty.
Yes.
We didn't even have a court case or a trial. Now, during the process of trial, and, the trial was supposed to be tried in December. Something else happened to end up February where we had not the trial, but the preliminary hearing.
Yeah.
So during the process of the media percolation and the media, outrage had dwindled down.
Mm-hmm.
After the media dwindled down, my attorney and the state were able to really look at the case with sober eyes. Because sometimes I think that the DAs are really influenced by if it's a high profile case. It seems like they just give you a harder time.
Wow.
So long story short, I spent over $40,000, close to $40,000. My house was in foreclosure. I adopted a son who, it threw him through a loop. It threw him through a mental health crisis. It threw my mother through a mental health crisis. I'm living at my mother's house.
Wow.
I haven't lived in my grandmother's house. It's just a family, it's the homestead. But I'm living at her house, and I'm just not used to, in my own space, coming back to feeling like a child at 40.
Wow.
Not needing to request $5 to get gas. so I can go to a medical appointment. Looking forward to medical appointments because I'm able to get out the house.
Wow.
These are the things, sitting in my bed for long hours, just, trying to, pray my way through. And I thank God for my fellowship family, fellowship UCC. I love you. They were very supportive. My church family was. There was a lot of people in the community that were supportive, that were close to me, who knew me. There were a lot of people at work who were close to me, who knew me. There were some in Middlesex there, there were people who were close to me, who knew me, who were very supportive. But, there were times when I would almost cry myself to sleep because my mother has her own health issues and she has her own crisis that she's going on. Yes. And I couldn't put on a sad face or cry or do all the natural emotions that people could do. I requested to my attorney if I could get special permission to seek mental health treatment, because at this point, although I'm a counselor, I'm going through trauma. It's lasting over close to 8 months at the time. My house is close to foreclosure. I'm afraid every month at the threat of being reincarcerated because I can't really get a job because I have to pay this ankle, monitor guy. So there are so many anxieties over me. Then I wonder about my son. Is he okay? I didn't pay his phone bills. I don't know, I don't know where he's at. I mean, he comes every now and then, but he has mental health issues. I'm not really, coming hard on him while he wasn't so supportive, or in terms of how I felt he should have been supportive. But, I mean, there was a lot that was going through my mind that I was dealing with, and it just compounded the trauma. But I want to specify that while I was going through this, the state would not allow me to get the help.
Wow.
They would not allow to reamend the order so that I can go ahead and get mental health treatment. So I get, and I was an EVMS. There is an infectious disease, but they also have a psychiatry clinic on the third floor.
Yeah, but they wouldn't give you treatment, Reverend Andre? They wouldn't allow you to see counselors?
They wouldn't allow me. They would not amend the They wanted me to just go to medical appointments. At this time, you are a pariah to the community. We don't care about you. That's it. We don't care.
So hold on, Reverend Andre. Reverend, hold on one second, because that is something powerful. So you were, going through these things. You could go to medical treatment to make sure that you were okay as far as that, but they would not allow you to have mental health services, is what you're saying.
They would not approve an amendment to the order so that I could go to a medical treatment, which was like a few floors down. I expressed this to my attorney, and nothing happened.
And let me ask you this,
they would not.
From a psychological standpoint, you have, all of these things going on. You a former pastor, you're a minister. You showed up with a mugshot because that's what was shown on Facebook. All of this type of things, arrested, and they put your health information out, which is a HIPAA violation, number 101. Right. And all of these type of things occurred to you. What was your mental process? Where were you mentally and spiritually at this time? Because that's a lot.
Honestly, to be honest, if I could be honest, absolutely honest with you.
Be honest.
Like I said, I'm a very strong person because it's even hard for me now, but I don't have time to really pout. I've got to move forward. Life has to go on. There's bills that have to be paid, and I have to be whole and well. Yeah. But to be honest with you, I was suicidal, but I was just too smart not to do it.
Wait, hold on now. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying the way you said it. So, but guess what?
I was suicidal. I laid in bed just so I can remove headaches.
Wow.
It got to a point where if I see a newspaper or I got severe headaches. I've had anxiety attacks coming from EVMS, where I had to be hospitalized at Norfolk Central General. It was nothing wrong with the treatment was fine, but it was just the thought of it, just the thoughts that were going through my mind. Such a severe headache, I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Wow.
Right in the when I was about to leave. The EVMS and Norfolk Central, they're really a walking distance. They called the medic. I probably could have walked over there if they gave me some water, but they called the medics, and I felt like I could not breathe.
Wow.
And after that, there was a few other times when I had to go to the hospital because of anxiety attacks. These are things I have not shared because I just have not shared.
I got you.
However,
yeah, but Reverend Andre, I mean, we're hearing everything that you're saying, and people are definitely listening and stuff. And we don't have as much time. Time go by so fast on this show, and so we kind of wrap up in a few minutes. But I want you to kind of give a 2-minute wrap up.
Okay, well, I apologize for taking so much time.
No, don't apologize. Go ahead.
But here's how it ended. I could not disprove that we were in a consensual relationship. I could not. We were. Okay. I spent a lot of money. After, when you went to trial, the DA said that they were going to offer a plea, but if you go to trial, it is a whole different contract. And, I just didn't have it. My home was in foreclosure again. I had to go back to Wells Fargo and figure out what I did. I mean, what I could do to, fix the situation. So they were looking at sexual battery, felony level, and aggravated assault, which, I mean, there were possibility that I can get about 10, 15 years or whatever. I would say the interesting thing is I took a plea to a misdemeanor. Mm-hmm. Once I took the plea to a misdemeanor, it just seemed like it was almost, once I signed my name on the dotted line, it was like all of a sudden magic. Everything went away. You don't go to jail. It's now just on the record. You never have to register as a sex offender. It's not that kind of a sexual offense because the sex itself was consensual. It was like, okay, we got this misdemeanor, and and so now life has to begin in February. And I really, even at that point, coming in, I was walking into my house, jobless, almost homeless. I was living with my mother, and life had to start all over. I have done construction. I've taken out trash cans. I've never done things like that. Honestly. I did it in high school. But finally, I worked my way through this platform from the National Counseling Association to Dr. Taylor and through some other friends who were able to work with my story. So I do have a suitable employment that's not where I was, but it's getting there through Minority Aid Support Services. So I am a outreach specialist. So that's where I am. And
wonderful. And so Reverend Andre, so I just want to say, and I mean, I just want to thank you for your courage and for sharing. Now, it's so much. You got to come back and finish. Because we don't have time to finish, and I know this is like your first time kind of publicly on the media, social media sharing, and I know people have heard this story, and I know they're going to have questions, so please, can we schedule another time for you to come back and finish?
We will schedule another time. Yes, we will.
But I want you to, I want to just kind of wrap up and do some takeaways here, and I'm going to give you a few minutes, to do that, but someone is asking, Dr. Francis is asking about, the support, your ministerial friends, there were people that, of course myself, but there were people that supported you that you didn't even know that supported you in the community. Everybody wasn't against you.
Yeah, but you know what? And I want to say this, and I do not want to take lightly that, and I want to say this because I don't want to mischaracterize. I had people who supported me around the world. Mm-hmm. I have friends who from Virginia Union that are in Florida. I have friends who have moved to Bahamas and Jamaica. Yeah. I have made Facebook friends with the community expat in Ghana, Africa, Botswana, Nigeria, and Liberia. All of them offered employment. Yes. This is a different country. We offer employment. However, because of what those countries are going through, it just wasn't suitable to what could be offered here. So there was a lot of love. I will say that. Yes. For those who knew me and you and many people, there were many people who loved me, but I would say for the larger people who did not know me, who only saw that and they only know me by a news clip, it was very apparent in the community there was a lot of venomous and a lot of hostility. That's all I'm saying.
And that's just vital to what you're saying. And people are responding. Minister Kim says, thank you for being transparent. I know people are hearing this, and sometimes there's going to be some silence because this is new to a lot of people hearing this story and for this to happen to you. But I also hear God in all of this. And now that you have a new aspect of your ministry, not that you had to go through that to get the new aspect, but you have a new aspect and you're still thriving and you're still doing stuff. And that's what I appreciate about you, that you're still going going to move on and heal and do, and everything is still not fixed. You're still working through a lot of things, but look at that you're still here and you're still talking, and now you're an advocate, and I know you just recently did a workshop at a counselor conference or something, right? You know,
I did, yes.
Yeah, and so it's just powerful of what you're doing, but you got to come back, and we got to be able to answer questions of people as we're putting a seed out. You know, you definitely have to come back, and we got to wrap up in a few seconds. But I'm just, you know, my takeaways is, you know, stop blaming the victim. You know, we all are hurt. We all got different things, and we need to block out this stigma of AIDS and HIV and start treating this like any other illness, any other physical challenge, and stop minimizing, you know, and saying, okay, that's one thing over here, but cancer is another thing over here. Everything is connected, and all of us are affected. The question is, and someone asked, I think Pastor Bobby Graham had asked, how can the church become a safe haven? What can we do? Can you give us a step or two of how can the church be helpful in helping persons? I know there's several churches that I even go to that have AIDS and HIV ministries, but how can the church further? Can you give us one or two steps before we go today?
I will. The HIV and AIDS ministry, I hope I didn't denigrate it. It is very important. But because of the stigmatization around the diagnosis, some people who have it won't be a part of that health ministry. Okay. So this is one thing you can do is, number one, just be a loving church. Be a loving church regardless of what they have. If you be a love conquers all, love endures all, love never fails. So if you are a loving church and a person who is HIV will sense that, then guess what? The isms or the particulars will take care of this. God will take care of that.
Wow.
So just be a loving church. Be a loving people.
I love it. And I think we can conclude with that right there. Reverend Andre, thank you so much for your time and your transparency. You're going to get a lot of calls and stuff. Now, is there a number, an email? How can people reach you? Are you not public yet? Because I know, you know,
there's some... well, you know, it is what it is. You know, my thing is, you know, I can't do counseling more, but one thing I can do is I do have my voice, and I use it well all these years, so that's not going to stop.
All right, so what y'all need to do on this, you know, so what y'all need to do on this show is just reach out to me, and then I'll make sure that Andre gets the contact information.
If you look me up on Facebook.
Okay, they can do that. Okay, so Andre Leopard on Facebook, you can definitely send him a message on Facebook, and therefore, because I mean, Andre, I'm telling you, you're on the cutting edge. People need to hear this. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary for our healing and necessary for what we're doing. And so I definitely want you to come back and finish this story. And then on the next show, be able to answer questions. People have questions, but we got to plant the seed. But now it's time to go ahead and water the seed and go forward with that. So we definitely have to close. But thank you, Reverend Andre, for your time. Thank you all for just listening. Thank you all for all of you all support. This is the Therapeutic Conversation Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Jones on 108 Praise Radio. And I'm just so excited today for the show and for this topic and for you just being transparent. And we know that God is all, and we know that you're going to continue to be in ministry and continue to do something great for the body of Christ. And we are so excited about your future, because it's not over. You know, it only grows and gets better. So thank you all for joining us. You can like us on our Facebook page, Therapeutic Conversation Show. You can also check out my website, the Brian Jones. You can also check out the Joshua Generation Care and Consultant website. And so we're definitely here to serve you. We're definitely here to support you. And we're definitely having conversations around mental health, spirituality, and empowerment. Again, thank you, Reverend Andre. And then give us 1 second. We got 30 seconds left. If you would just give us a closing thing for the people that you want them to take away.
Love people regardless. The same love, support that you need for you, or that you give to your kids, or you give to anybody that's close to you, give it to everybody. everybody. If you love the right way, then you'll become the right kind of church.
I love it. So spread the love, not be judgmental, and just love each other, support each other and not be judgmental. I got it. Thank you, Reverend Andre. You're definitely coming back soon, and people are liking it and people are talking. So you definitely coming back. We definitely got to get you scheduled. And this has been, as I said, been the Therapeutic Conversation Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Jones. Join me every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 108 Praise Radio.